Leo had survived 3 galactic wars, countless bounties, and a black hole malfunction, but nothing prepared him for this. The Krillian bartender's tentacles had trembled, with what Leo assumed was laughter when he'd accepted the simple escort job. 5,000 credits to accompany a lonely traveler to the Luminara festival on Nexus Prime. Easy money. Too easy, he realized now as he stood outside the crystalline palace gates. "You're late," a voice called from the shadows. Leo turned to find a woman emerging into the starlight. She was human, or appeared to be, with silver hair that cascaded like liquid moonlight and eyes that seemed to glow with an inner luminescence. She wore elegant robes that shimmered between blue and violet, and her movements carried an otherworldly grace. "Elsa?" he asked, checking his datapad. "That's what they told you to call me, I assume." Her smile was enigmatic. She extended her hand, not quite looking at him. "Shall we?" Leo noticed it then. The slight unfocus in her gaze, the way her head tilted to orient on his voice rather than his position. She was blind. The realization struck him with unexpected force. The Krillians hadn't mentioned this detail. They'd set him up, those tentacled tricksters, probably laughing into their fermented algae about the hardened mercenary, escorting a blind woman to a festival. "Lead the way," he said. Gentler than intended, Elsa's fingers brushed his arm, and something electric passed between them. Leo had handled plasma rifles that felt less charged. As they walked through the festival's holographic gardens, she spoke of stars he'd only read about in navigation charts, described nebulae with the passion of someone who'd witnessed their birth. "You see so much for someone who can't." Leo stopped himself, cursing his own tactlessness. "Who can't see?" Elsa finished, amused. "I see plenty, Leo, just not with eyes." Throughout the evening, Leo found himself captivated. Elsa moved through the crowds with unexpected confidence, guided by senses he couldn't comprehend. She knew when servers approached before he did. She described the energy signatures of passing aliens with startling accuracy, and when she laughed, genuinely laughed at his stories of botched mercenary jobs, the sound resonated like music through his chest. "Why did they set this up?" Leo asked as they stood before a fountain that sang with bioluminescent water. "The Krillians, I mean. This blind date setup." "Blind date?" Elsa repeated, and her laughter rang out again. "Oh, they're more clever than I gave them credit for." Before Leo could ask what she meant, the festival light suddenly intensified. The crowds parted like a curtain drawing back, and Leo noticed something he'd been too distracted to register before. Everyone was bowing. Not toward the stage, but toward them. Toward Elsa. Elsa? "There's something you should know," she said, her ethereal eyes still unfocused but somehow looking directly into his soul. "I'm not exactly who the Krillians told you I was." A delegation of impossibly tall, dragon-like beings approached. Their scales reflected starlight, their wings folded with military precision. The lead creature, easily 3 meters tall with horns that curved like ancient crowns, knelt before Elsa. "Empress," it rumbled in universal common. "The council awaits your pleasure." Leo's brain short-circuited. "Empress?" Elsa turned to him, and for the first time that evening, she looked genuinely uncertain. "I am Elsa Draconis, Empress of the Stellar Dominion, ruler of 47 systems, guardian of the ancient ways." She paused, "and apparently the subject of my advisor's terrible matchmaking schemes." The pieces fell into place with devastating clarity. The Krillians weren't random bartenders, they were diplomatic envoys. This wasn't a simple escort job. It was a setup orchestrated at the highest levels of galactic government. And Elsa wasn't just blind, she was something far more extraordinary. The dragon lady part. Leo managed. Elsa's form shimmered. For just a moment Leo glimpsed her true nature. Scales that gleamed like stardust, wings that could eclipse suns, eyes that had witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. Then she was human-seeming again, fragile and beautiful and utterly terrifying. "My species doesn't rely on conventional sight," she explained. "We perceive reality through quantum entanglement, through the very fabric of space-time itself. To humans it appears as blindness. To us you're the one stumbling in darkness." Leo should have felt manipulated, angry, used. Instead he started laughing. The absurdity of it all. A washed-up mercenary tricked into dating an empress who commanded dragons and saw through the universe itself. "So," he said when he caught his breath, Was any of this real? Or just an elaborate joke? Elsa's expression softened. She reached out, her hand finding his face with impossible precision, fingers tracing his jawline with tenderness that made his breath catch. The Krillian suggested I needed to interact with someone who didn't know my title, someone who would treat me as simply Elsa. Her thumb brushed his cheek. They were right. Tonight was the first time in decades I felt like more than a crown and a throne. And the blind date pun? Their sense of humor remains terrible, she admitted. But their judgment about people, she smiled. That's improving. Leo looked at the bowing delegates, the festival frozen in imperial protocol, the weight of 47 star systems hanging in the air between them. Any sane mercenary would walk away. Run, even. So, Empress, Leo said, taking her hand properly in his. Does this mean I'm getting a bonus for exceeding job expectations? Her laughter echoed across Nexus Prime, and somewhere in the crowd, Leo could swear he heard Krillian tentacles slapping together in triumphant celebration. Stay, Elsa whispered, and it wasn't a command from an Empress. It was a question from a woman who'd glimpsed something worth seeing in a universe she'd already witnessed in its entirety. Leo had survived wars and black holes, but falling for a blind dragon Empress who could see right through him, that was humanity's greatest adventure yet.